I think as you are starting out in a business, it's okay to kind of feel like your business model isn't completely set in concrete. You know, the best part is that you're your own boss. You can do what you want. You can change up things according to your lifestyle or what's going down in your personal life at the moment. So I like to think of my business model as Play-Doh. You know, like you kind of have this like amazing thing where you can reshape, roll it back out if it doesn't feel right, shape it up again. And that's all part of the fun of being an entrepreneur.
So the question is this: how do thought leaders, school dropouts, former and current students find out what's next after they do or don't cross that stage? If you want to know the secrets to starting the career or business of your dreams, getting paid whatever you desire, and discovering what you do the best with the least amount of effort, then this is the right podcast for you. I'm Shawn Anthony, and this is School's Over. Now what? The podcast. Welcome to School's Over Now with the podcast, and I'm your host, Shawn Anthony. Guys, if this is your very first time clicking that button and listening to the show, I just want to say welcome. Each and every single week, we bring you an inspiring person or a message that is going to help you. And whether this is you are listening right now, you are currently in school, or you're listening and you just graduated, or let's just take it and be honest, let's say you even dropped out. This is the show that's going to help you figure out what's next. There is no fee for this show. The only thing that I ask is, as you are listening, tell a friend. Also, take a screenshot. Tag me at Shawn R. Anthony _ and let me know what your thoughts is on each and every single episode that you are listening to. And without a doubt, hit that 5-star rating and leave a review. This helps us reach a bigger audience. It also helps us obtain and attract some of the best guests that you've heard of and others you have yet to discover. So continue doing those things. Highly important. So many of you right now that are listening to this podcast have reached out to me, whether it is a Instagram comment or an Instagram DM. And we all have one focus. We want more out of life. And if you're listening to this right now and you want more out of your life, you want to know how to blow your career out of this water and be promoted constantly. You want to know how to create that business of your dreams and flourish, or to show up as a brand. Get very excited. We are working right now to create something that will, without a doubt, take you and your ideas to the next level. So stay tuned. To find out more about this opportunity, please visit schoolsovernowwhat.com and simply just leave your email address. Also, you can shoot me a DM and I will respond as well. So ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. Now, you know this podcast would be absolutely nothing without you. So each and every single week, we love to talk about the review of the week. This week's review of the week goes to Nas Vibes, and she wrote, inspirational. Love this podcast so much. So many relatable topics. One key takeaway is that I am not alone and to stay determined. On podcast episode 20 with Mahisha, I learned that we are not our past. And we can't let our past shape who we can be. It is beautiful to hear from others that's chasing their dreams are still possible if you are mentally strong enough to surpass people's opinions of you. Great people and topics. Shawn, please keep it going. Nas Vibes, I appreciate you, and we will do just that. We will keep pushing. We will keep going. And those comments, those reviews you guys are leaving are touching other people. So continue to do that. And anyone else who feels that exact same way, I highly appreciate you. All right, guys, let's talk about today's episode. Today's episode features none other than Ruby Lee. Ruby Lee is a side hustle coach and entrepreneur, and she has all the energy you need to turn your idea into freedom. Here's a little bit about Ruby Lee. She was once nearly fired for having a side hustle, and now today she's dedicated her life and her business to enabling early stage entrepreneurs everywhere to create options in their career and abundance on their own terms. Some while even balancing a day job. Guys, I understand a lot of times as you're going on with life, you have to make ends meet. But there's a lot of times you have to figure out what your side hustle is, especially when you're coming out of school and you're jumping into any career field. And a lot of us have side hustles that are truly our passions. So this episode talks about how you can own your hustle and turn your side hustle into your main hustle. Ruby Lee also hosts Own Your Hustle podcast, which is very popular on iTunes. And as of today, she has been labeled Indeed's Job Whisperer. Buckle up. Get ready. You're going to learn how to own your hustle today. Ladies and gentlemen, episode number 24 with Ruby Lee. First off, welcome to School's Over Now What podcast, guys. And I am here with the one and only Ruby Lee. How are you?
Woo! Thank you so much for having me on, Shawn. This is very exciting.
Yes, it is. And we are now talking to you. You are live, in Australia, correct?
Yes, I'm in Melbourne, Australia, and it is early morning for me here and late in the evening for you over there.
Yes, it is. For the guys that don't know, Ruby, you have been lighting everything that you touch on fire as far as social media, whether it's LinkedIn or you have over 19,000 followers, or whether it's your Own Your Hustle podcast. You are somebody that is blowing things up, and I'm excited to have you on the show.
Oh, thank you so much, Shawn. Yes, all the momentums really seem to have picked up in the last 6 months or so, and I can go through that, but it's just been such a wild ride.
Man, let's talk about that ride. You are to me, you're the queen of anything dealing with side hustle right now. So let's talk about, take me back to the beginning. I want to go back to the childhood of Ruby and you growing up and finding out who you are as a person.
Yeah, sure. So I guess just the quick overview is I started off in corporate Australia, did the very kind of standard thing, went to college and university, came out, got my corporate job, spent over 15 years in corporate. So, I was in accounting first and foremost, and then I moved into HR and recruitment. Now, in that time period, I always felt this calling to start something outside of my 9 to 5, just to, have a little creative outlet, do something that really connected with me and something that I could call my own. And ever since then, I have just loved cultivating side hustles. My own side hustle, I started speaking to my friends and my family about why side hustles are so important to help you, from a career perspective, but also just from a well-being, mental well-being perspective. It keeps you kind of ticking in different ways outside of just your job, right? So yeah. After that, I just decided, right, this is it. I've got to go all in and help other side hustlers create businesses of their dreams and to really help accelerate them and start to just take that from just a hobby idea to start monetizing their idea and creating another source of income.
Got it. So what was your side hustle for those who are listening? What was your first side hustle, and is it still your side hustle today?
Yeah. So when I was recruiting, so I was the head of recruitment for a couple of companies. My side hustle was actually in career coaching and career transition. So whilst I was recruiting a lot of people for the companies I worked for, I was actually also rejecting a lot of resumes, right? Because not everybody can get those jobs.
Of course.
So I created a side hustle where I could help those people that I wasn't able to say, hey, you've got the job, but I could help coach them into other roles or to help them better their application process. So that's what I did for almost 3.5 years. I was writing resumes, doing up LinkedIn profiles, interview coaching them, and many of them went on to find their ideal jobs.
Oh, wow. So as you're doing this, right, there's an applicant that don't get the job, but you have plenty of ideas of what they could be doing or, tweaking up their resumes. When you have a side hustle, and particularly the side hustle that you have, did it any way conflict with your current corporate job that you was having at the same time?
Oh, yes, it did. Yes. So one of my pillar stories is, I guess, in working in a corporate job, my employer actually pulled me aside and said, so listen, your side hustle and your corporate job, are very closely linked together, and there could be a conflict of interest here. And so, I really went through that discussion with my employer, and I said to them, I don't see a particular conflict because I feel as though we've not been able to offer a candidate a particular job. So it's, a sort of outside of work hobby of mine and passion of mine and purpose of mine to be able to help these people find other jobs outside of the organization. That particular instance didn't go so well with that employer, and I was actually nearly fired for having that side hustle. And so that was a very kind of confronting time in my life. I was very how do I say this? I was sort of faced with a crossroads. What do I do? Do I follow my passion? Do I follow my purpose? And I know I can help so many people. Or do I hang on to my corporate job because that's what's paying the bills? I was doing really well in my career. I was climbing the corporate ladder. So that crossroads really came at a time where it was the most inconvenient time, Shawn. Seriously, I was growing a family. I just had my son. Logically, it made no sense to leave your corporate job to go all in with the side hustle. But that's what I decided to do. I just thought, look, I need to follow my passion. And I went all in with my side hustle. But it was only for a period of time where I could go all in. So this is important. If you have a side hustle and you're thinking, but I don't yet have the financial runway or the financial means to go all in with it. So I found that that was the case for me. So I had to go back out, find another job for about 18 months and cultivate and grow my side hustle enough so that I could get to that stage where I could go all in and start my business.
So I want to dive into this because I think you just gave the people a lot. So let's break it down, right? So one of the things that caught my interest, I can imagine the feelings of emotion when you were pulled from that corporate employer to talk about, your side hustle. And I can relate so much to that because you're working on something that you feel is bigger than yourself. And you're the only one that is noticing it. And it's almost as if when you're being pulled and being spoken to, from a corporate level, did you sense that they were afraid of what you could become?
I think they weren't sure what to do with me. In a certain point, I think they were thinking, okay, is she a risk to the corporate brand or is she an asset to the corporate brand? So there was a lot of discussion there because, and this happened about almost 3 years ago now, 2.5 years ago, I'll say. And in Australia, the climate with side hustles is still very grey. A lot of employers, big employers, don't quite know what to do with side hustlers because it is often seen as a bit of a threat, if you like.
Yeah.
But I do feel that that's turning around. It is, I'm definitely working a lot more with employers to help them better understand why side hustlers make up the future of work. And even being able to speak to employers about this topic tells me that the climate is very quickly changing.
Yeah. Do you think more companies are now realizing that, hey, this person works for us, but when they go home, they have a life that they want to create as well?
Absolutely. And I think it's just an education and a conversational process. It's not all of a sudden a new thing where, oh gosh, what is this side hustle thing? It's just coming in different forms, because we're in a generation more than ever where we're able to start businesses with Wi-Fi and with a passion and with some time, giving up Netflix, and all of a sudden you can start a business, right? So it's just a different way of looking at it. I mean, a lot of managers and, if you want to look at corporate board members over the years, they've always had different ways of earning income and different passions and different income streams. But now because, I suppose the masses and more employees are able to start businesses on the side, employers are kind of trying to work out where they stand with that, how they feel about that. Is it actually a policy that needs to come into play, or is it something where you can say, well, outside of 9 to 5, you can work on what you want to work on so long as you are a fully engaged employee during the time that we've hired you to be here?
And that makes sense. So I think one of the best things about your side hustle, especially off early in the stages, is that now you've taken, building the resumes, but you also went on to an even higher level and kind of taking your side hustle up a notch. And now you're helping other people develop their side hustles and their passions. How are you able to, move up in the rankings of what you want to do with your side hustle to take it very serious rather than just a hobby?
Yeah, when I started my side hustle as a resume and interview coach, there was always something in there that I knew it wasn't going to be my long-term business, but I knew it was teaching me how to create a business. So as a side hustler, and this is why I believe it's so possible and so powerful to become an entrepreneur, side hustles are great because you get to really trial and test things out. You get to work out what feels right for you as a founder, as a future CEO, what type of business you want to build, how you want to draw income. I started playing around with ways around earning passive income as well as obviously active income as well. So with passive income, I started to create digital courses. With active income, I started to play around with, do I like one-to-one coaching, or do I like hosting group workshops, or do I like being a speaker? So I would really give that time over that 3.5 years where I was side hustling. I was trying to assimilate what type of business I wanted to build. Now, that gave me an incredible foundation so that when I felt ready to go, I effectively already had a pretty clear business plan in mind.
Yeah, man. And it sounds like you broke that business plan down. So like you have the digital courses, right? And you also have the active one-on-one courses. Which out of those courses do you think people are more drawn to? Are people more drawn to hitting, the playback button? Let's see what Ruby's talking about. Or are they more drawn to see if they can get Ruby one-on-one?
Yeah, I think for me, I have definitely moved more towards courses, but my courses are delivered live. There's always an element of it where, you jump on a Zoom call and you see me deliver a 1-hour live training, but then it's backed with, let's say, a week's worth of work. So you can go through a self-paced journey, and then the next week, so my courses typically last for 4 to 6 weeks. The next week they'll see me again. So it's a nice hybrid combination of both self-paced learning and then catching up with me live. And then I have also a private, very small private group that I work with one-to-one as well. So, that feels right for me, and it changes all the time. I think as you are starting out in a business, it's okay to kind of feel like your business model isn't completely set in concrete. The best part is that you're your own boss. You can do what you want. You can change up things according to your lifestyle or what's going down in your personal life at the moment. So I like to think of my business model as Play-Doh. You kind of have this amazing thing where you can reshape, roll it back out if it doesn't feel right, shape it up again. And that's all part of the fun of being an entrepreneur.
Hey guys, so let me take a guess. You're enjoying the show. And if that's right, please make sure that you take a screenshot of you listening to the podcast right now and tag me at Shawn R. Anthony _. I promise you this is going to help in amazing ways. And while you're at it, hit the 5-star rating and subscribe. With that being said, guys, let's get back to the show. I love it because it's all about the trial and error part of it, right? And when you're your own boss, you can go screw some things up. No one's going to really say, hey, you're fired, because you pretty much hire yourself.
Exactly right. Exactly. And I think it's so true. I mean, I definitely had to go through a process where I like to call it decorp myself. So decorporatize myself, where, if we're going through corporate for, 10, 15 years, I was always so used to asking people and getting approvals, getting sign-offs, ticking boxes, jumping through hoops. And then when I actually went out there and started my own business, I was like, oh my gosh, I can make all the decisions. I can make the call. I can change things up if I want to. I can follow my soul, do what my soul, wants to, in order to build a business that really feels connected to tribe as well. So that's been just such an amazing experience to go through.
Man, so there's somebody listening right now that's probably extremely excited and are thinking to themselves, okay, how do I come up with a side hustle? What am I good at? Are there any Ruby Lee tips that you got for somebody right now trying to figure out what could their side hustle be?
All right. So, okay, get ready, guys. This is it. Are you ready? So I would say get out a piece of paper. This is going to take you 5 minutes to do. And on your piece of paper, draw a line right down the middle of it. So you want to have 2 columns. On the left column, if you're trying to figure out what side hustle suits you, in the left column, I would start listing every single skill that you have, even the skills that you think is old and irrelevant that might not make a lot of sense, right? So it could be everything from you're really great at baseball, you're a guitar player, to you're really great with people, you're a storyteller, you have an accounting degree, you have a marketing background. Just list everything out that you can think of when it comes to skills. On the right-hand column, start listing everything that you are passionate about, that catches your eye as you're, let's say, scrolling through the news. Like, what are you interested in? Are you interested in culture, in politics, in music? These things will help you ground to your skills on the left-hand column. And this gives you a foundation to really brainstorm what sort of side hustles might suit you. And they can come in the most obscure places and most like the strangest things that you think would never ever match up. So it could be that you're a guitar player who wants to write songs all about politics, right? I mean, hello, John Lennon, right? But, in saying that, it's just something that you would never typically go, oh, that's a side hustle that'll make me lots of money. Instead, connect to what makes you you, and then your side hustle will come out of that. And that's where energy and all the passion and flow will come from.
Wow. So if you just listen to those truth bombs that Ruby just dropped, what you're going to get from that is that you can develop the action plan to start out your side hustle. Thank you so much for sharing that. So Ruby, I can only imagine, right, that as you are going through, this transition, going from corporate to creating your own business, was there ever a time or a moment where it got really tough and you started to second guess yourself?
Oh my gosh, every day. Quite seriously, I think, I will just say this, that there's always a sense of second guessing yourself versus listening to what you want versus those little, voices in your head versus your gut feeling. So it's really kind of a moment where you can try and work out what's valid and what is just the absolute crap that you tell yourself that is just not true, and you can eliminate that. When I first started to go into my business, I will say to you guys right now, the one thing that I didn't prepare myself for enough. I did all the business strategy. I had a marketing background. I had an accounting background, so I was really great at numbers and budgeting out the business. The one thing I didn't put enough attention on was mindset, was actually strengthening my mindset. And a lot of this comes down to what is today, what I sort of like say is my spiritual practice in business. Mm-hmm. And this comes in the form of journaling, of meditation, of spending time alone in my thoughts and being okay with that. I used to be very afraid of my own thoughts when it came to business because I'm like, it's so noisy and how do I work out what voices are right? So the mindset part, I have to say I played catch up with in the first couple of months of going into my business, because without a strong mind, you can have all the business strategy in the world and it won't be backed with what you know is true to your hustle and what feels right for you.
So you got to get your mind into a clear space, and sometimes getting into that clear space requires separation. That's what I'm hearing.
Exactly. And it comes in the form of resilience, being bold to ask for what you know you need, reaching out to a tribe and a community of people that can support you. All these things come from having a strong mindset. So what are some of those ways? I'm glad we're talking about this and you mentioned it. As you grow and develop, and this could be for someone right now that is thinking about branding, as you grow and develop, as far as building your tribe, what are some ways to kind of identify who's in your tribe but keep them there? Yeah. So I'm a big believer in creating, I'll call it a soul-aligned tribe. And it's often a discussion I have with a lot of early stage entrepreneurs, because we can fall into this energy space where you think all customers are great customers because you learn from all customer experiences. And even if it's like a really terrible client experience, you can pick that up, you can learn from it, and you know what you no longer want. I choose to write a different story. I choose to only believe that I attract people that want to hear from me, that I have a soul connection with. They see my light, they see the energy I put out to the world, and they think, oh my gosh, Ruby's my coach. I've been looking for someone like her. Now, how I've done that, and how you guys can do that as well, is to really, once again, grab out that piece of paper that, we just did that exercise earlier, flip the page, you're on a blank page now, and start writing out your values. What are they? What do they look like? When was the last time you actually wrote down your key values? I remember doing this for the first time as me. I did a lot of it in corporate life, and you take a lot of company values on board, but when you do it as an individual, oh gosh, like how different they are and how connected they are to who you are as a person. And those values ground everything that I do. Every single Instagram post I put out there. So for example, one of my values is family, and I will put an Instagram post or a story out showing my life with my family. It's one of the big reasons why I wanted to leave corporate, so I could spend more time with my young family. My second value is really around the hustle, but hustle with heart. So showing people how to not just always work, but connect it to soul and how you're giving back to your community. So as you start to write your values out, you'll also start to really be able to grow your brand, grow a community, and grow a tribe that feels extremely aligned to you.
Powerful. Because a lot of times first thing when you said family, a lot of companies, and for those people that are listening, and you're hearing it from Ruby, and Ruby was involved heavily with corporate America, and I've definitely worked a corporate job. When you turn around that piece of paper and write down values, a lot of companies is not going to have family on it. Would you agree with that?
Exactly. It's like integrity and courage.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? It's different when it's as a group versus as an individual.
Exactly. So there's somebody listening to this podcast right now, Ruby, and each and every person that's been on this show has had to answer this next question. Mm-hmm. If you were that former college student, or you were somebody that dropped out of school, you didn't even make it, and you were asking yourself the question of this podcast, school's over, now what? What advice would you give?
My advice is give yourself time to assess what the right path is for you. Don't fall into a path because you feel everybody else is expecting that of you. We are living in a generation of choice and freedom more than, I would say, other generations before us. So what a way to be able to give yourself even just a space of time, 2 months, 3 months, give yourself some travel time, some focus time, really reach out to mentors, have that moment where you can think about what you want to do next. And the best part is that there is never a wrong decision. There is never a wrong decision when it comes to connecting to what your soul wants, because every single person's path is different and it's carved out according to what you want, not what somebody else wants for you.
Man, knowledge, just so much gems, guys. And what you're getting right now is that you have to listen to your heart. And in your heart and your mind and your focus, only you know what that is. Somebody can put you in a room right now today and ask you, what do you want to do? And you can just give them an answer that makes no sense at all. It may not even be the right answer, but deep inside, you know what you want, and they cannot define that. Ruby, I appreciate you. How can anybody get in touch with you? How can they find you on all across the many platforms that you're on?
Yeah, sure. So you can find me on LinkedIn as Ruby Lee. I post daily videos on there to motivate side hustlers all around the world. I also post my behind the scenes on Instagram, which is @_Ruby Lee_. And I also have a private Facebook group, the Own Your Hustle group, which is full of thousands of side hustlers really moving towards the same mission and pulling each other up as well, which is a beautiful group to come and join.
Ruby, I appreciate you. And for those that are listening, always remember, Dream it, believe it, go out and get it. Yo, what you think? I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I want to know what you learned. So if you wouldn't mind, would you take a screenshot of you listening to the podcast on your phone right now? Upload to your Instagram stories, tag me at Shawn R. Anthony _, and then let me know in that Instagram story what is one thing that you learned. I love hearing from you, my listeners, thought leaders, former or current students all around the world. Let me know, and while you're doing this, go inside the podcast app, subscribe, leave a 5-star review and a 5-star rating. Again, this helps us reach more people. And if you want to be a part of this mission, helping us change the world one person at a time, it makes a massive difference by you leaving a review. Thanks so much. I'll see you next week. And remember, dream it, believe it, go out and get it.